According to Jewish tradition, the Messiah will enter Jerusalem through a specific gate. For centuries, a stone arch there has stayed shut, silent yet present. Some treat the subject as folklore. Others see it as the most sensitive point on earth. Not just the entrance to a city, but the threshold of a promise. Before we continue, click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way each new chapter reaches you at the right time and nothing in this journey goes unnoticed. Who ordered it to be blocked with stones and mortar? Why are digs around it still off limits? And how do you explain recent reports of sounds, small tremors and movements with no apparent cause? If the gate no one touches is exactly the one the Messiah is supposed to pass through, what does that say about our time? In this video, we're going to follow the clues of the Eastern Gate, the Golden Gate. We'll cross layers of history, from the buried past to the future announced by the prophecies, and look for signs that the silence may not last. To hurried eyes, it's just old stone, half buried by time. To those who read the scriptures, it marks the boundary between what has already happened and what is yet to come. Located on the eastern wall of the Old City, facing the Mount of Olives, the gate sits at the center of messianic expectations. Stay with me. In the next scenes, we'll reveal why a sultan decided to seal it, how that decision still echoes today, and what hints point to changes ahead. What you're about to hear may change how you see Jerusalem, the Bible, and your own place in this story in motion. Nothing in that alignment is by chance. From the Mount of Olives, your gaze crosses the Kidron Valley, reaches the gate in the eastern wall, and beyond it the Temple Mount, where the first and second sanctuaries once stood. That axis isn't just topography. It's a corridor of meaning through which, according to Jewish and Christian traditions, the Messiah will cross Jerusalem in glory. This expectation doesn't come from rumors. It rests on Scripture. In a vision during the Babylonian exile, Ezekiel heard, "This gate shall remain shut, it shall not be opened, and no one shall enter by it, because the Lord, the God of Israel, has entered by it." Ezekiel 44:2. It's a gate sealed not by neglect, but marked by the presence of God, a threshold made holy by the path it received. Ancient Jewish commentators saw it as the place of the Shekinah, the visible glory of the Most High. For Christians, it's also the route of Jesus of Nazareth's entry into Jerusalem, riding a donkey, in fulfillment of Zechariah. Thus, the structure stops being mere architecture. It becomes a witness, a guardian of prophecies, a reminder of a humility that is past, and a herald of a majesty yet to come. And yet it remains sealed. Why? To answer, we need to step back almost half a millennium. In 1541, the Ottoman Empire ruled the city, and Suleiman the Magnificent governed a vast territory. Faced with the rumor that the Messiah would enter through that gate, the Sultan ordered it sealed, an attempt to contain with mortar and stone what heaven had already declared closed. Before we continue, click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way each new chapter reaches you at the right time and nothing in this journey goes unnoticed. While Suleiman's architects and engineers were redesigning Jerusalem's walls and gates, structures that still shape the city's outline today, a worry was growing in the palace. Among local Jews and also in Islamic eschatology, the prediction spread that a Jewish Messiah, a Redeemer King, would enter the city through the Eastern Gate. A Muslim and keenly aware of the power of popular beliefs, Suleiman saw a political risk. If a claimant appeared, that would be the stage for his entry. The response was calculated. The Sultan ordered the Eastern Gate sealed with large blocks of stone and mortar, cutting off the passage. Then he reinforced the plan with another move. He established a Muslim cemetery in front of the gate. Under Levitical law, Jewish priests avoid ritual impurity associated with tombs. A burial ground there would create an extra barrier to anyone with a priestly profile. To him, it was the ideal arrangement. Neutralize the prophecy, remove the threat, keep order. Except the closure echoed in an unexpected way. The prophet Ezekiel had said, "This gate shall remain shut because the Lord entered by it." Without realizing it, Suleiman turned a prudential act of government into a symbolic mark. For many scholars and rabbis, his decree didn't defeat expectations. It gave the gate the status of a sign. And so, stone upon stone, Jerusalem gained a riddle in plain sight. And those who pass by still look for answers in that quiet stretch of wall. The Talmud teaches that even the decisions of kings end up serving heaven's will, whether they realize it or not. In the shadow of that idea, the Eastern Gate remains sealed, as Ezekiel announced centuries ago, carrying the memory of a promise and the fear of those who try to control it. But the gate's story isn't stuck in stone. Under it lies something that only came to light by chance, and that changes how we read the past and look at the future. Spring of 1969. A young archaeologist, Dr. James Fleming, was researching the area in front of the Eastern Gate. Days of rain had softened the ground, making it unstable. That's when, directly beneath today's sealed gate, the structure of an older gate appeared. Same alignment, same direction, only buried by time. The discovery led many archaeologists and Bible scholars to conclude that the original gate from the Second Temple period is there, beneath the current one. It would be the same gate through which Jesus entered Jerusalem on Palm Sunday, in fulfillment of the announcement in Zechariah 9:9. Rejoice greatly, daughter of Zion. Shout, daughter of Jerusalem. See, your king comes to you, righteous and victorious, humble and riding on a donkey. Two gates, a single storyline spanning centuries. The lower one tied to the first coming when he enters in peace. The upper one sealed, awaiting what has not yet happened. If they are aligned, what does that say about the story still being written? When he enters in power, the question isn't just when, but how. There's a pattern running through the Bible. The first coming is discreet, almost hidden. The second, public, irresistible. It's no accident. God's timeline is intentional, woven into geography and architecture. His purposes don't stay only on the pages, they're engraved in the stones of Jerusalem. Before we continue, click subscribe and turn on the bell. That way each new chapter reaches you at the right time and nothing in this journey goes unnoticed. That's why the Eastern Gate becomes more than a passageway. Researchers still debate the exact dating, but the consensus is clear. It predates the Ottoman era and probably existed in the Second Temple period. That anchors it in the time of Jesus. And then comes the paradox that unsettles us. The gate has already been crossed and still awaits being crossed. The prophecy has been fulfilled and still awaits its fullness. What story is at work in this already and not yet? One written by a mind not bound to the clock. If that's true, we're not at the end. We're in the middle of something sacred. In Jerusalem, every path points east. Geography is never neutral. Every stone, every slope, every shadow echoes ancient promises. The Eastern Gate lines up with a larger axis, a trace that stitches together prophetic markers across time and terrain. And to the east, rising above the city, stands the Mount of Olives, a place of prayer, of spoken word, of farewell. Between the gate and the mount, a silent line connects past and future. And as you walk it, you get the feeling the question has changed. It's not if, but when he will enter in power. Zechariah 14:4 describes a concrete scene. On the day of the Lord's return, his feet will stand on the Mount of Olives, and the mountain will split from east to west. It's not just a figure of speech, it's an act in the landscape, projected to still happen. If you look at Jerusalem's sacred map, one line stands out. Mount of Olives, Kidron Valley, Eastern Gate, sealed today. And ahead, the Temple Mount. That alignment forms a prophetic corridor that points to the route of the Messiah's arrival. The New Testament reinforces this expectation. In Matthew 24:27, Jesus says his coming will be as obvious as lightning that flashes from east to west. In Acts 1:11, angels assure the disciples on the Mount of Olives, the same Jesus will return in the same way he was seen going up. And Ezekiel 43:1-2 widens the picture. The glory of the God of Israel comes from the east and enters by the gate facing east. This isn't architectural coincidence, but a pattern running across centuries. From the first temple to the sound of the last trumpet, the east remains the direction of arrival, glory, and judgment. Rabbinic tradition echoes this conviction. Many ancient tombs face east, toward the Mount of Olives, in the hope of rising when the Messiah comes. At the center of it all, the Eastern Gate remains a threshold, closed, silent, waiting for the step that will reopen the way. Here, the border isn't just between east and west, it's between what fades and what remains. A city built on prophecies, a gate closed by fear, a promised king set to return by the same way he departed. None of this is a stray legend. It's an ancient map waiting for the next step. As we move east, the narrative moves too. Resistance, rejection, and a sovereignty no human decree can reach. There's a pattern that keeps repeating when the subject is the Messiah. Humanity tries to contain what it can't control. Herod, drunk on power, ordered the death of the babies in Bethlehem to silence a rival. In doing so, he echoed the lament foretold by Jeremiah. Years later, the Pharisees and the religious elite, protective of their own authority, rejected Jesus and plotted his death, not noticing they were acting out the lines of Isaiah 53, the despised, the rejected. And Pilate, trying to wash his hands of responsibility, sentenced an innocent man to death, handing the lamb over to the altar. Before we go on, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way every new episode gets to you right on time and nothing on this journey slips by. In every episode, human calculations collided with ancient promises and failed. Centuries have passed and the Eastern Gate remains sealed, stone upon stone, a reminder of the stubbornness of trying to stop the inevitable. Here's the irony. Every attempt to stop the Messiah only reinforced his identity. The seal became a sign, the barrier a clue. And standing before that gate, the question that lingers isn't if the way will open, but when and who will be paying attention when the temporal touches the eternal again. Sealing the Eastern Gate was meant to be the final maneuver to silence a prophecy. The gesture, however, ended up standing as proof of the opposite. Far from celebrating human autonomy, it became a silent landmark of God's sovereignty. There's a pattern that repeats in history. Humanity resists, God advances. The silence of the gate isn't absence, it's a loaded pause, a held breath before the climax. The curtain pulled tight before the stage is flooded with light. In recent years, something seems to have tugged on that curtain. Locals speak in hushed tones about noises coming from underground. Pops, cracks, booms that vibrate underfoot, as if something ancient were waking up. Some dismiss it as rumor, others see signs, hints that the seal is weakening and that a turning point is near. In 2015, an Israeli archaeologist took the question public. Why, in a Jerusalem where digging happens almost everywhere, are excavations by the Eastern Gate kept so strictly off limits? What lies down there? What discovery are they afraid to bring to light? And why, in a city that reinvents itself brick by brick, does this spot of all places remain untouched? Speculation is growing, as are the doubts. Is the trembling of the stones just geological whim, or the echo of ancient words beginning to reverberate? Even secular scholars acknowledge that the uniqueness of the case deserves attention. Between rumor and record, between stone and promise, something keeps pulsing beneath the seal. There's no practical reason for that gate to remain walled up. It doesn't protect a barracks. It doesn't manage traffic. Even so, it stands there, shut, silent, as if it guarded something that won't fit on streets or calendars. Maybe what's being held behind those stones isn't people, but time. And the more the world shakes, the more those stones seem to hum. Some say the one who once entered in peace will return in glory, and no human seal will stop the king. The question nags, are we closer than we think? Prophecy rarely explodes like thunder. It often pours out slowly, quietly, like fog rising at dawn. And we only notice when, looking back, we realize everything has already changed. Before we go on, hit subscribe and turn on the bell. That way every new episode gets to you right on time and nothing on this journey slips by. In 1969, beneath Jerusalem's sealed Eastern Gate, archaeologists uncovered a forgotten access. It went almost unnoticed. Decades later, its relevance is growing. Many believe that buried corridor dates back to the days of Jesus. If so, we're not looking at a mere remnant. It's as if history had waited for our generation to lift that curtain of dust. Coincidence? Or a sign of something lining up beyond our clocks? Revelation 3:20 presents another picture of a door, not in the wall, but within. Look, I stand at the door and knock. The city gate may remain closed on the outside. The question that remains is which door, inside us, opens first. I will come in. For centuries, careful readers have noticed the shift at this point. Jesus doesn't present himself as a king marching with armies and verdicts. He places himself at the door, like a guest, patient, waiting to be welcomed. It's a turn, from geography to intimacy, from stones and maps to the choices of the heart. Maybe the most urgent gate isn't the one that stays closed in Jerusalem, but the one you keep inside. It's not just about seeing the Messiah cross the Golden Gate. It's about knowing whether he has already found a place in the sanctuary of your life. The scene is simple, but it calls for a response. Ezekiel said he saw the glory of the Lord leave the temple and head east, a scene of distance. Later on, he tells of the glory returning from the east and entering the temple again. Ezekiel 43:1-4. He left once, he will return. Between departure and return, the burning question arises: will we be the generation that sees that day? And if we are, what kind of people do we need to be? Distracted, divided, disconnected, or watchful with the heart unsealed, alert to what God is doing now? Not just to what we studied on the maps of the past. It isn't religious curiosity, it's readiness. Facing the Eastern Gate, we don't see only limestone and history. Before us rises a threshold, the alignment between gate, glory, and the return of the King. It's a crossroads of city and soul, prophecy and daily life. And then, standing at this door, what will be your move? Keep it latched with theories, or make room for an encounter that shifts your life and transforms the center of your heart? Over the next few minutes, come with me through this threshold and let this question work in you. In Ezekiel 46:12, a figure appears who isn't an ordinary prince. Among Jewish scholars, he's called the Nasi, the royal leader of the Messianic era. Among Christians, eyes turn to Jesus, the promised king who rules with justice. The narrative points to the Eastern Gate, which will one day open again, not by human will, but by God's decision. This act doesn't appear in isolation. It connects to what Revelation 20 announces: a millennial kingdom, 1,000 years marked by peace and righteousness under the rule of the Prince of Peace. Blessed and holy is the one who shares in the first resurrection. These will serve as priests of God and of Christ, and will reign with him during that period. This expectation isn't limited to poetic imagery. Acts 1:11 declares that this Jesus will return the same way he was seen going up. And where did the ascension happen? On the Mount of Olives, facing the Eastern Gate. That's why scholars and believers keep their eyes on that ancient portal. It's not just a relic of Jerusalem's history. It functions like a keystone of the approaching future. We're not waiting on fantasies. We're walking a countdown marked by promises being fulfilled, one step after another. The final alignment is beginning to take shape. The gate that opens, the glory that returns, the King who comes. And here everything converges on the question that matters most. Not a historical curiosity, but a question that cuts through eternity. Which side of the gate are you on? There's a gate more decisive than any wall in Jerusalem, the gate of the human heart. Psalm 24 echoes like an ancient chorus. Lift up your heads, you gates. Be lifted up, you ancient doors, so the King of glory may come in. This isn't a message for a far-off city. It's a call for you, right now. The same Jesus who wept over Jerusalem is standing at your door. He doesn't break in or shove. He knocks, he waits, and he makes a simple request. Will you open? We can love archaeology, study prophecies, and track the signs of history, but all of that loses force if the heart stays locked. You can resist, build walls, multiply the locks. Even so, there's no outrunning the King's love. When he returns, the central question won't be, did you know everything about the prophecies? But, were you ready? So the decision is clear. Is your heart hardened like stone or open to the glory? If this word stirred you, if something woke up inside you as you listened, say it in the comments. The gates of my heart are open to the King of glory. Let this be your moment to make room and add your voice to the chorus of those who prepare the way. Share this video and subscribe to the channel. The gate may open sooner than we expect, and when that happens, you'll want to be on the right side of history. The invitation has already been made. The handle is on the inside. We'll wrap it up here for today. If this message reached you, respond with a simple gesture. Write in the comments, "The gates of my heart are open to the King of glory." That encourages others and keeps the conversation alive. Leave your like, subscribe, and turn on the bell so you don't miss the next chapters. And if someone came to mind right now, share this video with that person. Maybe it's the knock they need to hear. See you soon. Until then, remember, the door is still there and the handle is still on the inside. May each day be one more step toward making room for the King. Peace and see you soon.